Hello, welcome to another Maggie Moment. Several weeks ago on Facebook, we had some interaction around angry children after school, particularly young children under 8 or 9. And I talked a little bit at the time about how a large number of those that were throwing spacks in the car on the way home were our lads. And I explained some of the reasons for that. I want to explain that a little bit more because those anger outbursts don't just happen after school some days. They happen in shopping centres and they happen at home and they happen in these random moments. And I know how much angst it causes our parents. Immediately we think, oh my God, I'm failing. This isn't okay. What do I do to stop this? There must be something bad going on. And I want to remind you all that young children are building what we call the upstairs brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is where we as adults have hopefully a little bit better impulse control, delayed gratification, empathy, understanding. So young children take a whole lifetime really to be able to build that part of their brain. So what happens when there's an unmet need is they will tip an overload into the lower brain, which is the primitive brain. So that's when they'll go into really big, ugly feelings, and anger is a really big one of those. So let's take, for example, a child who has had a really lousy night's sleep before they go to school. And don't start me on how we're overloading young children with the formalised learning, because that's just making me as cross as anything. Those sorts of things are overloading our children again. They're being made to sit still longer. They're being made to listen to lots more boring as bat poo information when we used to have them massively engaged in play activities, building social emotional competence and having some fun in those early years. So when you overload that little brain, it'll trigger and tip into big ugly feelings. What really, shall we say, kids really want to be good because they get rewards from being good. They get rewards from mummy and daddy, and they get rewards from their teacher. She might smile at them and all those sorts of things. So when they're trying really, really hard all day, their trying hard bucket is completely empty when they jump in your car, and it will just tip over because you are a safe harbour for them to come to. So as they get closer to the safe harbour, all the big ugly things come up. And I've even noticed that children that go to out of school hours care, they actually manage it right the way through till they're picked up. So as soon as the safe harbour comes in, out comes the safety of me to bring up all these big ugly feelings and being children, they are unable to articulate what they are. Now, anger looks the same as frustration. So it's not always specifically anger. And let me go once again briefly to boys. Boys actually channel almost all their feelings through to anger because it's actually a warrior-like emotion that makes them look like they've got some control and they're tough. Underneath it is often incredible feelings of sadness, feelings of overwhelm, feelings that no one likes me, feelings this is too hard, feelings this is dumb, feelings that I'm frustrated and I don't know what the heck's going on and I don't know how to win in this environment. So keep in mind that boys will often go to anger when they're often feeling other feelings like sadness and frustration. Another thing that's frustrating and tipping our children over is we're giving them way too many things to do before they're developmentally ready. So every single child has a different wiring in their brain for what we call spaces of new learning. So some children can have 3 plus or minus 2, some have 7 plus or minus 2. So if you're sitting those two children down next to each other, the child with 3 spaces for new learning may have it all filled up by morning tea. So they get really frustrated when their brain can't retain whatever else is coming on. They can't think very well because that's not a really nice place for the brain to be in. And if they're not drinking enough water and they're also eating high sugar food, those little cherubs are going to be struggling in that environment. And then there's all the social and emotional things that young children are still working out. Where do I fit? How do I belong? And what do I do if no one wants to play with me? So when your child throws a massive anger attack as they get into your car, we want you to be the safe harbour. We want you to recognise they're tipped over into a massive cortisol download and know they've not planned it. It's just a childlike overwhelm. And we need to be the big people that holds a safe space. I'd probably head for the park, and I've talked about this before. I'd make sure they've got some water to drink as quickly as possible. If it's boys, probably food. We're the big people who have to somehow or other help our little kids create serotonin, which is a brain chemical that calms, or dopamine, which means, wow, I'm having some fun at last. So sometimes that trip to the park, trip somewhere else on the way home might be able to help them resettle their energy clock, but also I'm back in a safe place and I can have some fun now. So remember, our children are developing how to manage big, ugly feelings as children. And the one after school is often a relief that they're back near someone who cares for them and loves them. So please reframe it that you're not failing. It's a sign that you're a safe person that's going to help me manage these big, ugly feelings. And until next time, I hope that helps a bit.